Have you ever felt an unspoken tension with someone you once thought was a friend? Maybe you've been on the receiving end of a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes, or you noticed someone's compliments came with a subtle sting. It's unsettling, yet so many of us brush it off, unwilling to confront the truth lying beneath the surface. But what if I told you that these subtle gestures hold profound significance and that ignoring them might be costing you peace of mind? Understanding these hidden signals isn't merely about self-preservation, it's about living with clarity, free from the discomfort of unspoken negativity. In Stoicism, one of the greatest gifts is discernment, the ability to recognize people's intentions and set boundaries. Are you ready to face the truth? Embracing these realizations might be challenging, but it's worth every bit of discomfort. As we go through these 7 signs, you'll uncover the tools to safeguard your well-being, honor your self-worth, and cultivate relationships rooted in respect and sincerity. Now, let's begin with the first sign, often painfully revealing when you experience it: disappearing acts when you need support. 1. They disappear when you need support. True friendships are tested in moments of need. When life's challenges arise, it is then, more than ever, that we discover who stands beside us and who fades away. This form of abandonment isn't just painful. It reveals an uncomfortable truth about the other person's intentions. How many times have you reached out to someone during a crisis, only to be met with silence or an array of excuses? It's during these moments of vulnerability that Stoicism encourages us to look deeply into the actions of others and ask ourselves, is this person truly committed to being part of my life? A friend who vanishes in times of need is revealing their priorities, which likely don't include you. For a Stoic, a real friend isn't simply someone who shares in your joy. They are the ones who remain steadfast through hardship. They don't vanish at the first sign of difficulty. Consider this: if a person's friendship disappears the moment you need them most, what kind of friend are they truly? You may recall situations when you had to manage alone, realizing only too late that the people you counted on were merely fair-weather friends. How often have you had to learn this lesson the hard way? In my own experience, there were times I hoped friends would understand my pain, offer support, or at least lend an empathetic ear. Yet when I reached out, I received responses like, "I've just been so busy," or "Let's catch up later." Later rarely came. The reality was painfully simple. They didn't have the time, not because they were overwhelmed, but because they didn't value the relationship enough to make the time. In these instances, it's crucial to separate superficial acquaintances from those who genuinely respect and value your companionship. A Stoic mindset reminds us that people act from their nature, and often their actions are not about us, but about their own priorities and limitations. Therefore, when someone isn't there for you, rather than taking it personally, recognize it as a sign of their character and adjust your expectations accordingly. Yet don't let this experience make you cynical or resentful. Instead, view it as a valuable insight, an opportunity to redefine who you allow close to you. There is wisdom in knowing that some friendships are transient, teaching us lessons about resilience and discernment. So, the next time you feel let down by someone's absence, ask yourself, was their friendship truly as deep as I believed? Use this insight to focus on relationships that contribute to your growth and let go of those that weigh you down. As we explore further, you'll see that the signs of hidden dislike often manifest in small ways, as subtle as a seemingly friendly comment with a hidden sting. Let's move to the second sign, one that often masquerades as kindness but conceals a subtle intention to undermine your self-worth. 2. They subtly exclude you from plans. Exclusion reveals what words do not. Have you ever found yourself noticing friends or acquaintances enjoying time together without you, only to hear later that they just assumed you wouldn't be interested? Or perhaps you've seen photos of outings online and felt the sting of being left out. This subtle exclusion, often framed as an oversight, is a powerful sign of where you truly stand in their lives. In Stoicism, discernment is a key virtue. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to observe without judgment, to see things for what they are without letting our emotions cloud our view. Exclusion, when it becomes a pattern, is often deliberate. It's a way of signaling to someone that they are not a priority. While it may be wrapped in excuses, "Oh, it was last minute," or "I thought you were busy," the reality is often that they chose not to include you. Why is this significant? A person who values your presence will naturally make space for you in their life. They won't leave you feeling as though you must ask to be included. As a Stoic, ask yourself, am I accepting excuses to avoid the truth? If these instances of being left out happen repeatedly, they're revealing the dynamics of the relationship. There is no need for anger or frustration. Recognize the behavior as a signal of where they stand. In doing so, you free yourself from the pain of hoping for things that may not be genuine. In my own journey, I've encountered this many times, with people I considered close friends going out of their way to create plans, but seemingly forgetting to invite me. Each time, I would give them the benefit of the doubt, but eventually the pattern became clear. A true friend doesn't repeatedly forget to include you. A Stoic view reminds us not to take these exclusions personally, but to let them clarify our choices. Rather than clinging to relationships where we aren't valued, we are better served by moving forward and seeking friendships based on mutual respect. Does this mean we should confront every instance of exclusion with anger? Not at all. A Stoic would approach it calmly, perhaps asking a direct but open-ended question. I noticed I wasn't included. Was there a reason? In this way, you address the situation without judgment or accusation, allowing them to reveal their intentions. If their answer confirms your suspicions, take it as wisdom rather than betrayal. It's not easy to recognize that people we once valued might not reciprocate our feelings, but understanding this allows us to realign our energy toward people who truly value our presence. With this clarity, we find that life naturally becomes more fulfilling. Those who genuinely appreciate us will invite us to share in their lives without hesitation, and that is a bond worth nurturing. Now let's move forward to the third sign, another behavior that can be easy to overlook: avoiding physical contact. 3. They avoid physical contact. Distance is a language of its own. Physical touch, whether a handshake, a pat on the back, or a friendly hug, is one of the simplest forms of human connection. It's natural, instinctive, and in many ways it transcends words. But what does it mean when someone consciously avoids even the smallest gestures of physical contact with you? Stoicism teaches us to be observant, to see beyond the superficial. When someone avoids physical contact with you, especially if they are otherwise open with others, it's a subtle signal that there may be underlying discomfort or aversion. A handshake that feels restrained, a hug that is quickly ended, or a friendly pat on the back that never comes. These are all forms of unspoken communication, and they can be more revealing than words. Ask yourself, is there a reason they feel the need to keep this distance? People sometimes avoid contact because they are masking their true feelings. It's easier to avoid closeness altogether than to pretend to feel warmth they don't genuinely possess. While it may seem trivial, a lack of physical warmth can indicate a desire to maintain emotional and personal boundaries, a way of saying, I don't want to get too close. For a Stoic, this isn't something to be taken personally, but rather something to be recognized for what it is: a form of silent communication. Observing it without attaching judgment allows us to understand where we stand with that person. In my own experience, I once worked closely with someone who seemed to make an extra effort to keep physical distance. At first, I thought it was simply their personality, but over time, I noticed they were much more relaxed and open with others. This wasn't about their natural disposition, it was about their disposition toward me. Rather than feeling slighted, I took it as insight. It clarified our relationship and helped me manage my expectations. The next time you notice someone avoiding contact, reflect on what it might mean. Are they this way with others, or is it specific to you? Often people express what they feel indirectly, especially if they're unwilling to confront it head-on. And for a Stoic, it's essential to respond with composure, not letting these observations disrupt your inner peace. When you accept it without resentment, it becomes easier to let go of any false closeness and invest in connections that feel natural and unreserved. Physical contact, in its absence or presence, teaches us about the bond we share with others. Embrace this knowledge without resentment and focus your energy on those who welcome you fully, without barriers or restraint. And as we continue, let's examine the fourth sign, one that often hides within seemingly positive gestures, the compliment that isn't quite as uplifting as it seems. 4. They give compliments that sting like insults. A compliment can be a veiled weapon. Have you ever received a compliment that left you questioning yourself rather than feeling uplifted? Perhaps they said, "That's impressive for someone like you," or "You're actually smarter than you seem." These words seem positive on the surface, yet there's an unmistakable sting underneath. These are what we call backhanded compliments, a subtle tactic that can chip away at confidence without seeming overtly hostile. In Stoicism, the wise learn to see beyond mere appearances, discerning intentions beneath words. Backhanded compliments are often less about offering praise and more about asserting superiority. A person who frequently uses this tactic is essentially saying, "I see you, but don't rise too high." Stoicism would have us ask, why is this person unable to genuinely appreciate another's accomplishments? When we recognize this, we begin to see their words not as a reflection of our own worth, but of their insecurities or unspoken grievances. I remember an instance when I put tremendous effort into a project. After presenting it, a colleague turned to me with a smile and said, "Wow, I didn't expect that from you." On the surface, it was praise, yet beneath it was a layer of condescension. At first, I felt hurt, but Stoic philosophy reminded me to question the motive rather than internalize the remark. It became clear that their words were a reflection of their own discomfort with my achievement, rather than a fair judgment of my capabilities. These backhanded compliments reveal the speaker's insecurities and, often, a desire to subtly undermine. But instead of responding with hurt or offense, a Stoic perspective encourages us to respond with calm curiosity. Next time someone says something like this, consider responding with a question such as, "Thank you, but could you clarify what you mean?" By doing so, you encourage them to confront the intent behind their words, which often leaves them rethinking their approach. True praise lifts up, while disguised insults aim to hold us down. A Stoic approach reminds us to guard our self-worth, discerning genuine support from those who would subtly undermine us. Letting go of backhanded compliments frees us to seek out relationships that nurture and encourage, rather than erode our confidence. As we move forward, let's examine the fifth sign, a behavior that often takes place behind closed doors but can have a powerful impact on trust and respect in any relationship. Gossip. 5. They gossip about you behind your back. What is said in the shadows often reveals the truth. Gossip is a subtle, insidious force that can erode the very foundation of any relationship. When someone you trust begins to speak about you negatively to others, they aren't just sharing a harmless story. They are actively harming your trust, reputation, and sense of security within that relationship. In Stoicism, integrity and truth are central values, and gossip goes against these principles, signaling a lack of respect and authenticity. Why do people gossip? Often, it's a way to elevate themselves by bringing others down. Instead of confronting issues directly, they turn to others, casting shadows of doubt about your character or intentions. Marcus Aurelius would remind us to consider the nature of people's actions, rather than react emotionally. Gossip is rarely innocent. It reveals a person's unwillingness to address issues openly and fairly. So, when you find out that someone close to you is gossiping, ask yourself, what does this say about their character? I recall a time when I confided in someone I believed to be a close friend. I shared a personal challenge, something I trusted would remain between us. But not long after, I began to hear whispers, twisted versions of my story that painted me in an unflattering light. It was painful to realize that the person I'd trusted was the very one spreading these tales. However, instead of responding with bitterness, Stoicism guided me to see this as a lesson in discernment. Sometimes the betrayal we experience is the universe's way of clearing out people who don't belong in our lives. Recognizing that someone is gossiping about you provides clarity. Rather than internalizing their words, you can view the situation from a place of strength. Gossip speaks volumes about the person spreading it and little about the one it targets. For a Stoic, it's essential to remember that our reputation is beyond our control, but our response to disrespect is within our power. By not engaging in gossip ourselves, we uphold the principles of honor and integrity, protecting our own peace. If you suspect that someone is gossiping about you, it may be tempting to confront them aggressively or react with anger. But a Stoic response would be to address it calmly, perhaps asking directly but without accusation, "I heard some things that surprised me. I'd like to understand if there's an issue we should address." In doing so, you invite honesty, allowing them the opportunity to either clarify or expose their intentions. Understanding who values your trust and who disregards it can save you from future disappointments. In recognizing the nature of gossip, we're reminded to cultivate relationships with those who respect our confidences and to distance ourselves from those who betray them. Next, let's move to the sixth sign, a behavior that is easy to overlook but becomes increasingly clear over time: the perpetual claim of being busy. 6. They're always busy when it comes to you. Time is a measure of priority. We've all heard it. "Sorry, I've just been so busy." It's the perfect excuse, understandable and polite. After all, everyone has obligations. But what if you start noticing a pattern? They're always busy when it's time to spend time with you, yet somehow have time for others. When busy becomes the default response specific to you, it signals more than a full calendar. It reveals where you truly stand in their list of priorities. In Stoicism, we learn to observe actions rather than words, recognizing that people's actions will reveal their intentions. When someone makes time for everyone else, but not for you, ask yourself, what does this imply about their regard for our relationship? This pattern is not merely about time management, but about willingness. People make time for what and whom they value. So, when you consistently find yourself on the receiving end of "I'm too busy," consider it a moment of clarity. There was a period in my life when I was reaching out to a close friend, hoping to catch up and reconnect. Each time I suggested a day, I was met with, "I'd love to, but I'm just slammed right now." Meanwhile, I'd see them on social media, spending time with mutual friends and posting pictures of gatherings and events. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to realize that the problem wasn't their schedule, it was their priorities. They were making a choice, however indirectly, to exclude me. For a Stoic, such realizations aren't meant to breed resentment, but to cultivate wisdom. By acknowledging that people choose where to invest their time, we free ourselves from the need to constantly seek validation or acceptance. Instead of feeling hurt, we can take a step back and redirect our energy toward people who genuinely value our company. If you find yourself consistently met with the "too busy" excuse, try addressing it calmly. You might say something like, "I've noticed that it's been challenging to find time to connect. Is there something we need to discuss?" This allows them to explain without feeling attacked, giving you clarity on their intentions. Whether they admit to their choices or make further excuses, you're left with a clearer understanding. Choosing to surround yourself with people who make time for you isn't about demanding attention. It's about honoring yourself and respecting the value of your own time. Stoicism encourages us to cultivate meaningful connections, not to chase after those who cannot be present in our lives. Real friendships are founded on mutual presence, not convenient absences. As we approach the final sign, let's consider a behavior that can be both blatant and subtle. Jokes that often target your vulnerabilities. 7. They're always joking about your flaws. Humor can reveal hidden intentions. We all know that one person who seems to have a joke ready at all times, especially if the joke is about you. They laugh, you laugh. After all, it's just a joke, right? But if their humor always centers on your quirks, perceived flaws, or past mistakes, it's worth pausing to ask, is this really light-hearted fun, or is it something deeper? In Stoicism, humor is recognized as a powerful tool, yet it is also a weapon when misused. Stoic philosophy would encourage us to discern when laughter is used to build rapport versus when it subtly undermines. When someone consistently jokes about your flaws, it's often a method of asserting dominance, a way to keep you feeling slightly inferior under the guise of humor. Rather than uplifting, this type of joking is designed to keep you in your place, chipping away at self-esteem without appearing overtly hostile. I remember a time when a close acquaintance would regularly make playful remarks about my habits, interests, and even the way I dressed. Initially, I laughed it off, assuming it was harmless. But over time, I noticed that the jokes weren't balanced. They never seemed to involve my strengths or achievements, only my supposed weaknesses. Each comment was like a small stone being added to a scale, and eventually the cumulative weight of those remarks began to affect how I saw myself. When someone repeatedly makes you the target of their humor, it's often more than mere jest. It's a subtle form of manipulation. They are, in essence, testing the boundaries of your self-respect, seeing how much you will tolerate before you speak up. Stoicism teaches us not to accept such disguised hostility as mere playfulness. Instead, we are reminded of the importance of boundaries and self-respect. Just as we wouldn't stand idly by while someone demeaned another, we shouldn't accept it for ourselves, even in the form of humor. If you find yourself feeling uneasy about these jokes, consider addressing it directly. You might respond with a calm but firm question. I notice that a lot of your jokes are about my flaws. Is there a reason for that? This approach brings attention to the nature of their humor, making them confront whether their intentions are genuinely friendly. A Stoic response allows for self-respect without unnecessary conflict, setting a boundary that can preserve both your dignity and peace of mind. True friends will lift you up, often using humor to share joy, not to lower your self-worth. When we choose our relationships with a Stoic lens, we prioritize those who respect us, both in serious moments and in jest. Life is fleeting, and Stoicism encourages us to cultivate bonds that nurture our growth, not those that erode our sense of self. Recognizing these signs in any relationship can be difficult, even painful. But Stoicism teaches us that clarity is the first step toward a life of peace and authenticity. Relationships should enhance our lives, not leave us questioning our worth. By observing actions over words, discerning true intentions and setting boundaries, we empower ourselves to build connections that honor mutual respect and genuine care. As you reflect on these 7 signs, remember that self-worth is not a privilege granted by others, but a virtue cultivated within. Life is too short to spend time in relationships that don't bring out the best in us. Seek friends and companions who lift you up, who are present in both joyful and challenging times, and who recognize your worth as readily as they celebrate your successes. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might benefit from a Stoic perspective on relationships. Remember, every connection you nurture or release shapes the life you create. Wishing you wisdom and resilience on your path to genuine, fulfilling connections.